Dear friends, welcome. I'm Luke Stevens-Royer, the minister here at First Unitarian Universalist Church in Rochester, Minnesota. It's a church where Diana attended frequently for the last several years with her daughter Robin and son-in-law Joe. As we gather in this unique time of distancing, the faces of members and friends have been posted on the chairs here in the sanctuary. So Diana is here, just over there a bit, stage right in her usual spot, as we gather across time and space to remember her and her life. We gather this day in a sacred circle of love across the world because a dear loved one has died. And more importantly, we gather this day because a dear loved one has lived. Diana lived a full life filled with love and laughter, sorrow and grief, a full human life with its challenges and its abundance of blessings. We gather here because Diana's life meant so much to each of us, and that life, her life, touched us in some way, in 1,000 different ways, however it was for you, from a favorite memory of time spent with her to the way something she did or she said or that you shared together maybe changed you somehow, impacted how you lived, how you thought, how you loved. Those small moments or those words that you shared. It's those bound together, all those moments, all those memories woven together into a fabric of love and sacred memory that can hold us in this time, in these tender days, your tender heart as you remember her. Each of you hold your own experience and stories and memories of Diana. She touched many in her life with her generous and kind spirit, a lively mind and heart. Through yoga and various kinds of therapy and spirituality, she had a heart and a soul devoted to helping and healing, helping others find ways to overcome their fear or to live more fully, finding ways to live more deeply and connected to the world, to each other, to the divine. Friends described her as embodying an ancient spirit of love, as an earthly guardian angel, a practitioner of holistic health and spirituality. And in every interaction that I was blessed to have with her, limited though they were in these few years I got to know her, her presence and energy held both a lightness and a depth of abiding presence. She made you feel noticed, appreciated, loved, even in passing moments. And always the kind heart. Robin joked that she left this world as she lived, graceful and thinking of others, passing on during a pandemic as to not inconvenience anyone to have to travel too far or cancel any plans. So we remember her. The poet Wendell Berry writes, "And so she goes, free of the earth. The sun of her last day sets clear in the sweetness of her new liberty. Radiance knows her. Grown lighter than breath, she is set free in our remembering. Grown brighter than vision, she goes dark into the life of the hill that holds her peace. She's hidden among all that is and cannot be lost." So today, for the life lived and the miracle of love and spirit that holds us, we celebrate, we give thanks, we hold each other across time and space, and we let sacred memory hold us and the spirit of love hold us, a love that knows no end, unconditional and eternal, to hold Diana. In our tradition, we begin our services by lighting this chalice. It's a symbol of warmth and of love, a passion for justice, and a beacon for a free and beautiful and open faith. Joe and Robin will light the chalice in honor and memory of Diana.
It has been my privilege to have known Diana for over 40 years. I am Robin's husband, Diana's son-in-law, and although there are a lot of jokes about mothers-in-law, she was the opposite of those stereotypes. She had a great love of life and was fun to be around. She had a generosity of spirit, a tremendous warmth and grace, and was an excellent listener. And she must have been an excellent parent. Look at how her daughters turned out. The chalice lighting for the service today was written by UU minister Greg Ward, entitled "To Carry the Light Forward." If we are lucky, we will all get a chance during our life to know someone who becomes for us an exemplar for living. And if we were really lucky, we will recognize how they ended up passing on some of their goodness to us, if we are lucky. But one thing is certain: no one, not one of us, entering this world can escape the cost of living. The price we pay is this: to live in this world, we must accept that someday we all will have to die. To love what is alive, we must accept having to lose what we've made most precious through our care. To be fully and fiercely human, we must accept having to be breakable and sometimes broken. When we stop to notice how their life gave us a path and a little light to see by. It helps encourage us to help carry that light forward. Though each of us carries forth in his world a small flame, we know that the ability of that light to brighten the world depends upon the many others who learn to walk with it in their hearts. We light this chalice today to honor the life and living of a truly bright light, Diana Taylor.
There's a light at the end where I know, where culprits on carpets make sense of it all, and the sky is all to go. arms, all the words you forget. Yet everyone's singing along, the good and the bad and the gone.
Hi, I'm Jessica Lobel, one of Diana's granddaughters. I'm going to be doing a responsive reading, and I'd like you to join me in saying the line, "We remember you." In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember you. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember you. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember you. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember you. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember you. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember you. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember you. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember you. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember you. So long as we live, you too shall live, for you are now a part of us, as we remember you. Thank you.
You belong among the wildflowers. You belong in a boat out at sea. Sail away, kill off the hours. You belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, find you a lover. Go away somewhere bright and new. I have seen no other who compares with you. You belong among the wildflowers. You belong in a boat out at sea. You belong with your love on your arm. You belong somewhere you feel free. Run away, go find a lover. Run away, let your heart be your guide. You deserve the deepest of cover. You belong in that home by and by. You belong among the wildflowers. You belong somewhere close to me. Far away from your trouble and worry. You belong somewhere you feel free. You belong somewhere you feel free.
Diana, Margaret, Thurza, Veer, Stuart Alexander, Clutton-Taylor. A mouthful of names, but a life worth remembering. My mother was a truly bright light. Although her eyesight dimmed in her later years from a genetic form of macular degeneration, her spirit glowed within, and she was a beacon of peace, love, and hope to many. By all rights, her life should have been simple and bucolic, but it was not. She was born the 19th of April, 1928, in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. Her father, Arthur Henry Clutton, was a handsome and scholarly Englishman who had moved there after serving in World War I to start an orange farm. Arthur fell in love with Vere Lowe, a charming, witty singer who was visiting from England. Vere's charisma magnetically pulled people into her orbit, but her mercurial temper ejected them just as fast. And so, when my mother was born and named Teresa Margaret Clutton, Vere flew into a rage over the issue of how to baptize the baby, she being an Anglican and Arthur a devoted Catholic. She kidnapped my mother from the hospital and disappeared. A divorce quickly followed, and Vere refused to allow Arthur to visit his infant daughter. Within months, she had married David Stewart, a kind man about 20 years her senior, about whom we know very little. My mother was 11 months old when they moved to England in 1929, even though taking her out of the country was prohibited by the divorce agreement. They listed her name as Tekla Stewart so that my grandfather couldn't trace her. My mother grew up not knowing that her birth father even existed. Once in England, my mother was renamed Thurza after Vere's mother. Her sister, Desiree, Diz to us, was born 2 years after my mother, and a brother, Louis, 14 months later. My mother used to say that Vere grew bored easily, and the family moved at least once or twice a year. She thought her stepfather was commuting to teach at a university, but we've never been able to confirm that. We do know that in 1934, when my mother was 6, Vere took her, Diz, and Louis to Jamaica. She had read in the Society News that Arthur Clutton was coming to England to get married, and Vere did not want to be found. At this point, she altered the family's last name to Stewart Alexander by appending David's middle name with a hyphen, a move also designed to lend them an air of aristocracy, which they certainly had not earned. Vere was quite a snob, and my mother lamented that she was always telling her brood that they weren't allowed to play with other children because the others weren't good enough for them. After several months in Jamaica, during which time Vere called Thurza Diana, which was actually Diz's middle name, they sailed back to Scotland to be reunited with David, and she became Thurza again. These were mostly pleasant times, although my mother used to say that Vere wasn't happy unless she'd made my mother cry at least once a day. Vere refused to let the children go to school, but David taught my mother her letters, and she taught herself to read. She loved reading to her siblings and had a voracious appetite for books. When young Thurza was 8, Vere took her children to Europe on holiday. They ended up staying in Greece for almost 2 years, followed by several months in Cyprus. They never saw David again, although he continued to send money for their support. Later in 1938, my mother, now 10 years old, Vere took the kids via cargo ship to the West Indies, where they did a lot of island hopping, staying on each island only while the ship was loading or unloading. My mother was allowed to go to school briefly for the first time at the age of 11 in Dominica. There she enjoyed the respite of being away from a mother who lost her temper daily. When England declared war on Germany in September of 1939, the family was in Barbados. David wrote that he had been called back to the Army Reserve. The family lost track of each other during World War II, and they assumed that he had perished. When Diana was 12, Vere moved the children to Canada, where she procured a series of scholarships for them to attend school, first in Toronto, then Cooperstown, New York, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Sewanee, Tennessee. In the fall of 1943, she took them all back to Kingston, Jamaica, for a semester at a Catholic school before sailing back to the U.S. Diz got to finish her high school career in Tennessee, but my mother, now 16 and a half, and with only about 3.5 years of formal schooling under her belt, was made to join Veer in Washington, D.C. and go to work. My mother earned $125 a month at her first job, of which Veer kept $120. By 1949, Veer had gone off and joined an Anglican convent in Arlington, Massachusetts, as Sister Teresa, which you may remember was my mother's original name. My mother was working for the South African Embassy in D.C. Knowing she would need a new passport when she turned 21, she wrote to Port Elizabeth for her birth certificate, and they wrote back to say they had never heard of Thurza Stewart Alexander. My mother had to visit Veer's convent in person to extract from Sister Teresa her version of the truth. She was devastated to learn that she had been lied to all her life. When my mother went back to work at the embassy on Monday morning, she sobbed to the chancellor, "I just found out I don't exist." With his help, she sent for the correct birth certificate and then officially changed her name to Diana Stewart Alexander. But her boyfriend at the time was more than intrigued. He wrote to her father in South Africa and explained the whole story. "I know your daughter," he wrote, "and she wouldn't like to impose, but I think you'd like to know her." Arthur Clutton wrote back and was overjoyed that his daughter had been found. His family had been praying for her every day since she disappeared. That boyfriend gave Diana one more incredible gift. He made her sit for the entrance exam at the University of Chicago, knowing that a high school diploma was not required there. My mother won a full tuition scholarship and earned her bachelor's degree in English in only 2.5 years, graduating from the University of Chicago the summer of 1952. After graduation, she sailed to England to meet Granny Clutton and spend some time with the rest of the Clutton family before traveling on to South Africa to be reunited with her father in December. Diana spent several months on the farm with Arthur Clutton and his family, basking in the love of her father, stepmother Joy, and newly acquired siblings, Jean, Jilly, and Owen. In 1953, she officially changed her last name back to Clutton and then taught for a term in nearby Port Elizabeth. Not wanting to leave Africa, she found a job a mere 1,000 miles to the north in Rhodesia. There she met my father, Alan Taylor, on her very first day at the Civil Service Hostel in January of 1954. As a librarian, my father used to joke that he was attracted to her large trunk of books before he even noticed her. They married in 1956, and of course she became Diana Taylor. I was born a year later, and Penelope following 2 years after that. My parents hated the apartheid government, and my father was delighted to leave Rhodesia in 1963 to accept a position as an African Studies librarian at Indiana University in Bloomington. About this time, Diz accepted a job in Ethiopia, hoping to be at least on the same continent as Diana. Unfortunately, the sisters' paths only crossed for a day or two in London, each en route to their own adventures. In 1964, our first summer in America, my father took us on a road trip to visit Veer, who was now living in Arizona. By this time, Veer had become a Russian Orthodox nun who called herself Sister Seraphim and had started the first no-kill animal shelter in the state. My dad was understandably curious to meet his new mother-in-law. The visit was cut short by Veer's outrageously vitriolic behavior towards my mother. My father was appalled, and there were no more visits after that. We did continue to receive photos and news clippings from Veer, who was frequently featured in the papers with her dozens of cats. Back in Bloomington, Diana raised her daughters, volunteered for the Red Cross, taught English as a second language, became a Girl Scout leader, and started teaching yoga. In her later years, she was fond of telling people that she had introduced yoga to the Western world. It probably felt like that to her when she started teaching classes in Bloomington, Indiana in the 70s. My mother was a wonderful and loving parent. She always had the ultimate praise for her growing daughters. I remember snarling at her as an ungrateful and disbelieving teenager. "You have to say nice things. You're my mother." What I didn't appreciate at the time was that she tried so hard to give me the kind of childhood that she didn't have, one filled with friends, stability, school, Girl Scouts, camp, and unconditional love. We moved to Maryland for my senior year of high school, and I was extremely bitter about having to leave my friends behind. To make things easier for me, my parents let me bring my friend Renee along for the summer, which was truly a genius move. And I think my mother loved having one more daughter to nurture and love. My dad and I both applied to Johns Hopkins University. Within days of each other, he got an administrative position with the library, and I got accepted as a student. Although I could have saved money by commuting each day with my father, my mother insisted that I live on campus. College, for her, had been one of the highlights of her life, and she wanted me to have it all. She was teaching about 20 hours of yoga a week at this point and was happy to chip in. She also contributed by allowing me to drop off a bag of dirty clothes in my father's car on campus each Friday and to pick it up clean and folded on Monday morning, saving me an extra hour or two to study each week. My father took a job with the University of Rochester in New York in the beginning of my senior year at Hopkins, so that sweet deal ended, but I found a really cute guy to help me with my laundry instead. My mother continued to teach yoga and engage in her new community in New York. Her world really expanded when she and my father moved to Virginia Beach in 1980 to become curators of a large historic manor home. They soon became active with a small congregation called the Fellowship of the Inner Light, eventually becoming ordained ministers. Diana gave the occasional sermon and conducted several weddings. My mother ran the metaphysical bookstore for the church and became fascinated with the power of thought to transmit energy. She became a hypnotherapist and used hypnosis to help people quit smoking, recover from trauma, overcome crippling fears, but her specialty was doing past life regressions. Together with like-minded friends, she formed a healing group that had as much fun together as they did serious work. Diana always had a gift for dream interpretation, and she gave many workshops on the topic. She also volunteered at Edgar Cayce's Association for Research and Enlightenment, and frequently led sharing groups for people who came there to attend conferences. Life in Virginia Beach was a time of immense spiritual growth and professional satisfaction for her. When the curatorship ended, soon followed by the breakup of her marriage in 1987, Diana soldiered on alone, seeing clients, teaching a little yoga, and renting out rooms to people who enjoyed her easy access to the ocean across the road. At this point, she began using Clutton-Taylor as her last name, but she never bothered to make it legal. When my niece Jasmine was born in 1989, Diana joyfully took over half the child-rearing responsibilities as Penelope struggled to make ends meet as a single parent. All this time, Diana surrounded herself with a company of loving, curious, and interesting people. Before she left Virginia Beach, she was hosting 4 study groups a week in her home, which kept her off the road, and that was a good thing. Although my sister Penelope drove Diana's car for her all the way to Rochester when she moved here in 2000, on her first day behind the wheel in her new city, Diana blasted through a stop sign, and went the wrong way down Broadway. Fortunately, she had the good grace to pronounce her driving days over. When she settled into her first apartment on Center Street, she thought nothing of walking 1.5 miles each way to Cub Foods to buy milk so she wouldn't have to bother me. In Rochester, Diana quickly embraced her new life. She immediately joined Unity Church and volunteered to run the bookstore there until that church dissolved, at which point she became a regular here at First Unitarian Universalist with me and Joe on Sundays. For her literary fix, she attended my book club. She continued to teach a small yoga class each week until she was 80 years old and her declining eyesight made balance difficult. She attended all my daughter's plays and musical events in high school, but drew the line at soccer games because she just couldn't see the ball. She also found a Course in Miracles group and delighted in the company of like minds and hearts. And for almost 20 years, she joined my Saturday morning walking group until her eyesight forced her to give that up almost a year ago. Diana was considerate, kind, generous, and compassionate to the core. Even in the last years of her life, as her eyesight and memory were failing, she had a strong sense of purpose. I'm just going to be a light into the world. I'll just go downstairs and see who needs talking to, she would say. Until her stroke in December robbed her of so much, she truly was an exemplar of living. And I feel very lucky that she passed on some of that goodness to me, my sister, and her 3 beloved grandchildren. Diana was predeceased by 2 half-siblings on her father's side, Roger Clutton and Jilly Clutton-Pluman, and a half-brother on her mother's side, Louis Stewart Alexander. In 2014, she was able to gather her surviving siblings from both halves of her family, Owen Clutton from London, Jean Clutton-Blades of South Africa, and Desiree Stewart Alexander of Santa Cruz, California, who finally met each other for the very first time here in Rochester. It was a dream come true for her.
We've known for a while that the day would come. Everyone here's just passing through, and when that time arrives, there's no holding back from crossing to see our eternal destiny. I will see you over the mountain, up the highway to the other side, where our love is forever shining within the glory of God's light. Sometimes it's so hard to understand the reason why we go through times of trial and sorrow. But the love in you will pull you through, and you will see love is alive everywhere in all there be. And I will see you over the mountain, up the highway to the other side, where our love is forever shining within the glory of God's light. There's more here than meets the eye, though you can no longer see me. I'm with you now in the love we share, and there is where you'll find me. mountain, up the highway to the other side, where our love is forever shining within the glory of God's light, within the glory of God's light, within the glory of God's light.
I'm Jasmine. This is Desi. We're here to share with you one of Diana's favorite poems, Count That Day Lost, by George Eliot. If you sit down at set of sun and count the acts that you have done, and counting, find one self-denying deed, one word, that eased the heart of him who heard, one glance most kind that fell like sunshine where it went, then you may count that day well spent. But if through all the livelong day you've cheered no heart by yea or nay, if through it all you've nothing done that you can trace that brought the sunshine to one face, no act most small that helped some soul and nothing cost, then count that day as worse than lost. It feels perfect that this was one of Diana's favorite poems, because this is precisely how she lived her life, bestowing acts of kindness on all of us who knew her. Thank you.
I'm here today to talk about my mother, Diana Taylor, to talk about everything that she meant to me and how much I learned from her. Diana was way ahead of her time. She was a person that introduced me to health food, and our family became vegetarian long before that was cool. Diana was teaching yoga when it was just hippies and weirdos doing yoga. And she liked to think that she had introduced yoga to the United States in her older years when she had lost a few of her marbles. But she also taught a great many people a lot of things. She introduced me to books like Diet for a Small Planet, The Ecological Eclair, things about healthy eating that now are commonly talked about. She introduced me to Dr. George Goodhart, the father of applied kinesiology, when we went to a yoga ashram many, many years ago. She introduced many, many people to a great many things and helped them to discover their own healing abilities. Diana led sharing groups for the Edgar Cayce Institute, the Association for Research and Enlightenment, on many, many subjects, and those people became her lifelong friends. She assisted other people in discovering their own healing gifts. And in the healing arts, she introduced me to Dr. John Thie, who created Touch for Health, Dr. Eric Pearl, who created The Reconnection, and of course Deepak Chopra, who I ended up studying with many, many years later. She was a bright light to many, many people, and she was an artistic, creative person. That artistic talent was of course passed down to her daughter Robin and her granddaughters, Jessica, Adrian, and Jasmine. Her ability to teach and share has been passed down to her family. Jessica is a teacher, Jasmine is a teacher. Her love of cats, which came possibly from her own mother, has passed down through all of her family. And we love animals, but most of all, we love Diana. There are so many of us who have been touched and blessed by her presence, that bright light that she has shared. And as one who has been ahead of her time, that light goes and shines beyond. She always said, I am not my body. And so those of us who understand and those of us who loved her know that she's present forever in our hearts, in our souls, and in our minds. Thank you so much for sharing your love of my mother, for sharing your life with my mother, for being a part of her life, and special blessings to Robin, Joe, Jessica, Adrian, and Jasmine. And may her memory live on for all of you. And this is a special toast to Diana Taylor. Thank you for being my mother. Thank you for being my teacher. Thank you for introducing me to the things that mean the most in my life. God, spirit, health, well-being, yoga, and healing. Bless you all. Thank you.
I want to thank my dear friend Robin and Joe and Jessica and Adrian, both of whom had piano lessons from me, for this wonderful opportunity to share music to honor Diana. It was a privilege to know her. I have wonderful memories, and I'm singing for you the song Turn, 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 about how there is a time for everything. And right now, outside, it's a time for a thunderstorm. So if you hear some special rhythms in the background, that's where it's coming from. To everything, turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time
too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven.
Diana, my sister of the soul in her present magnificence. You are the hawk above in flight. You are the million stars at night. You are autumn's leaves aglow. You are every glint of winter's snow. You are the curl of every wave, the shade and quiet of summer's glade, the golden rose in sunset sky. I celebrate you. You did not die.
Diana and her family relocated from Zimbabwe to America in 1963. I have wonderful memories of visits to Virginia Beach and Rochester, Minnesota. Thank you for those wonderful holidays and the hospitality of Robin and Joe and their families. Diana, I will never forget you often saying to me, Jeanne, read everything while your eyesight is still good, because once you cannot read from a book, it's just never the same again. Never did Diana ever complain about her very poor eyesight, ending up in almost total blindness. I will always love and remember you. I wish that I could be with you, my American family.
I am Owen, Diana's brother. Diana called me her baby brother, which was appropriate because she was some 23 years my senior. Diana was kind, considerate, and insightful. I remember these qualities in her from when I first remember her as a young boy, up until my recent visits to Minnesota, when I had some wonderful times with Diana, including when she, Jeanne, and I met together, 3 siblings from 3 continents. Diana also had a zest for life, and I remember on my visits she'd want to know the agenda for each day and to be involved in each aspect of the agenda. Diana was a wonderful person.
My memories of Diana are closely tied in with memories of youth and childhood, of Girl Scouts, of slumber parties, Robin, playing with Robin and going places with Robin, and Penny, of course, too. Being in Bloomington, going camping, being at university school. And by any standard, even that of a very cosmopolitan, hip, bohemian Bloomington, Diana was a really cool mom. I mean, she had that beautiful, refined British accent. She never lost her manners, no matter what. And she meditated, she did yoga, she drove a VW camper van and actually went camping. And over the years, Diana gave me many rides in that camper van. She chaperoned us on adventures, and she fed me many meals over the years. She always worried about me and the fact that I never ate cooked vegetables except for corn. She'd do a lot of different things to try and get me to eat them. She altered our camp-out menus, our Girl Scout camp-out menus. Not a popular move. She included veggies in lots of things that most people wouldn't include veggies in, all trying to get me to eat it, among other things, making her daughters eat it too. But every meal I ate with the Taylors, she'd try and encourage me. And it wasn't until the summer that I lived with them in Columbia, Maryland, already 17 years old, still just eating cooked corn. And she introduced me to stir-fried vegetables. So I credit her with all the cooked vegetables I now can eat. She was a wonderful mother. She was a wonderful mother to Penny and Robin, and she was like a second mother to me. She always, patiently listened to all of Robin's and my goofy stories. She laughed at the right places, and she would quietly admonish or correct us or guide us if we were being too silly or even mean, as only teenage girls can be. She taught us proper manners, obviously, simply by demonstration, and through it all, she was really cool. But besides being the coolest mom around, to me, she was kindness, acceptance, patience, and love, and I'll miss her.
Diana called me the most recalcitrant healer she'd ever met and had huge fun challenging me. She'll always be a part of me.
I'm Paula Horner. I live in Rochester, Minnesota. This picture of our family and the Clutton-Taylor family and the McKeeman DeAngelis family was taken at Thanksgiving weekend in November of 2018. I have no idea why we are eating matzo ball soup, but it just represents, I think, the many celebrations and wonderful times we shared together, and it just made me happy to look at it.
I remember the first time I met Diana. She was sitting near me at Unity Church. What a presence, and what was that interesting jewelry? We became friends. We walked in the nature we loved, summer and winter, shopped for deals at the Salvation Army, had deep conversations over tea or wine, which she always offered to top up. She was compassionate and a powerful healer. When I was very ill several years ago, she helped pull me through. She called herself an expanded Catholic and gleaned the gold from many belief systems. She listened at A Course in Miracles and then quietly said something that set us back on our heels, the light dawning. When she won the lottery, she assured me Unity would have a full-time minister. She looked forward to what comes after death. Diana was unforgettable. I have been blessed to call her my friend.
Greetings from Turtle Valley Bison Ranch in the interior of British Columbia. Lots of positive bison energy going on here today with the new calves that have arrived this year that Diana would have appreciated. Nikki and I feel privileged to share in this celebration of Diana's amazing life. We feel fortunate to have been part of Diana's journey. One positive memory for me was attending the Christmas celebrations at the Clutton-Taylor home. Diana always appreciated our colonial connection when I delivered my traditional English trifle pudding to the table. I believe she even insisted on taking a care package home with her for a second helping. Nikki wasn't able to join me today, but wanted to share an experience of her joining the UU Ladies Walking Group, which Diana was a part of. She struggled to match Diana's pace and vowed to follow her example of fitness for life. We'll remember Diana for her quiet, gentle ways and her enthusiasm for life, even when her health began to fail. We look forward to hearing everyone else's memories of Diana, as I feel I've only scratched the surface of this remarkable lady's life. Take care, everyone.
I'm Sue Wheeler.
And I'm Phil Wheeler, and we're from Rochester, Minnesota.
One of the things I always loved about Diana was that she was kind and gracious. She always asked people, "How are you?" And you knew she really wanted to know. And then she'd actually listen, a rare quality.
She had a good sense of humor. She was amused by the suggestions I made several times that she auction off the privilege of giving her rides, because that entailed the use of her handicap sticker. Her outlook on life and on people was invariably positive.
And she thoroughly enjoyed a good party.
It is easy to think of Diana with humor and kindness. She demonstrated these and many other positive attributes as long as we knew her.
Two quick stories. Diana seemed to thoroughly enjoy the Hanukkah celebrations the Lobel Taylors, Edmondsons, and Katzmans gathered for each year. The company, the conversation, the food, and the white elephant exchange. Years ago, we were the recipients of a beautiful blue and white teacup and saucer she donated, and it has attended every tea at our home ever since. It will serve as a reminder of her full appetite for and enjoyment of our multi-generational dinners together.
When Diana was at Shorewood, Jody and I visited. We'd been told she liked being read to, and we took it a step further. I brought a book of English nursery rhymes, which we knew also as songs. Jody and I sang those we knew, and Diana smiled, sometimes hummed, and kept time with her fingers. That is how I like to think of her, thoroughly in the moment of music and poetry shared with friends.
Elizabeth and I, our children and their families, David, Kristen, Alex, Lily, Emma, Alan, Michael, and Oliver, all send love to all of you.
Hello, I'm Diana Polt. I've known Robin and Joe for many years. When Diana moved to Rochester, she got an apartment at Shorewood Place where my mother was living, and they became good friends. I saw Diana's joy while helping her connect with Robin and Joe during their travels. Diana had much resilience and always expressed patience and positivity. It didn't hurt to have a bit of chocolate around either. Diana and my mother Margot were cherished friends, neighbors, and dinner mates. They had a quiet and caring companionship, always knowing each other was not far.
Hi, my name's Anita DeAngelis, and I'm a family friend of the Lobel Taylors and a longtime friend of Diana's. When I think back on Diana's life, I think of her as an avid hiker and walker. Some of my fondest and first memories of spending time with Diana are from the summer in 1998 that we spent at Camp Unistar on Star Island in northern Minnesota. We would wake up every morning before 6:30 and hike from 6:30 to 8:30 before breakfast all over the island. Diana was always leading the pack. This is a picture of Diana with her daughter Robin, taken from that summer. Diana traveled from Virginia, bringing Jasmine with her so that she could enjoy the time with her cousins. And here's a little picture of Adrian and Jasmine on the north shore of Star Island. Diana continued walking for the next 22 years as part of a walking group that I was in with her. Every Saturday morning, we'd walk either inside or outside depending on the weather and the temperature and the rain, and it was always followed by coffee, which is probably the most important part. Here's a picture of the walking group. I think this is from 2006, taken at Chester Woods Park. Of course, birthdays are very important, and we had to celebrate everybody's birthday with some good food and company. I think this picture is from, 2007, celebrating Sue and Paula's milestone birthday. I miss Diana's kind and gentle spirit. Right up into the end, she lived with thoughtfulness, kindness, and love.
Diana was one of the most spiritual people I've ever met. Because of this, I feel compelled to speak directly to Diana, who may be with us now as we honor her life. Diana, whether we were trying to hold a yoga pose, taking a walk, or sharing a glass of wine, your gentle wisdom delivered with your beautiful accent filled my soul with peace and joy. You taught me through your example how to savor life despite its many challenges. I love you and I thank you for these gifts. Whenever we departed one another, you always said, God bless you. So now, dear friend, I lift a glass to you as I say farewell. God bless you.
Cheers.
After this online service, the family invites you to an online reception via Zoom, the link shared among family and friends. Please join for a time of reflection and sharing. Grab some punch or coffee or a drink of choice. Maybe you have a bar or a treat you'd like to have as if you're here in our church for a reception where we'd be glad to spend time together telling stories. So if you can, please join us. Now I invite you into a spirit of meditation, a spirit of prayer. Breathe deep the breath of life. In gratitude for this life and these stories, the miracle of how Diana continues to live in 1,000 ways, shining in our hearts, living in our very breath. Dear Diana, beloved of earth, of sky, of stars and God, from the dust and earth from whence you came, the earth you loved so much, so now you return, dust to dust. And now we carry your memory within us. We carry on your work, your spirit, your love in our words and our deeds like a blessing. Into the embrace of love and light eternal you go, one with the earth and the sky and the spirit of life, held in the song of the ancient stars. As you go on your way, may love go with you. May love go before you to show you the way. May love go behind you to encourage you, beside you to befriend you, above you to watch over, within you to give you peace. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. May it be so, and amen.